Carbon Venom. Carbon Venom. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, wait till you guys see the standings. First off, in case you missed it, welcome back to the FNCS. It is a great day to be watching Fortnite. We just watched an incredible game, but Carbon Venom almost got another Victory Royale. Second place, 9 elims. I told you we'd have to look at these standings, right? Because I'm telling you, game to game, it feels like I have no sense of stability, Kelly. It feels like every time I have a semblance of like, this must be the way this is going, right? Wrong!
Is that
because
new
the
for
standings
you?
aside, you know what? What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like instability is part of your lifestyle, Zeke. I don't think that's anything new whatsoever. But for the FNCS broadcast, seeing our leaderboard shake up this much, Vivid, might be a little bit new. I definitely thought the leaderboard was going to be ready. Right there we go. Okay, Vivid, take it away.
Curve and Venom.
Top fucking
started the day
13 mid
in
lane.
10th place. I talked about it. They were
Kid need to stop beating
113
Nate.
points behind first place. After just
Oh,
2
baby.
games, they're now 27 points behind
Dang.
first place. And that elim column, it just keeps getting crazier. Zeke, you talked about it. It was at 40. Now it's at 49.
I am just shocked, you know, like something that Kelly said at the start of like yesterday, right? We kind of like were hinting at this extra point, right? Again, it's like 1 point really doesn't sound like a lot, but when you put it in the hands of like a Curve and Venom who want to get aggressive, they want to get in these boxes, they want to take these fights. I mean, look at how it's paying off. We have just after 2 games, we started the day, Kelly, in 10th. We are now 2nd.
And it's not even like they're just kind of running on the low ground getting these eliminations. No, they're also making sure that they're stealing height, checking high ground, making sure that they're taking away other opportunities from other teams. So it's not, again, what are they doing right, but what are they taking away from everyone else? And Curve and Vino are doing a great job with those sneaky height steals that we love to see Acorn do, and to see them use that strategy to be able to even just punish height. Obviously, coming into this final moment, the 1v2 against Chance or against Tyler, probably not the position that Veno wanted to be in right now, but regardless of that, they are pushing themselves up the leaderboard right now. And you know, I'm looking at EU. The most eliminations we saw out of a team coming from Europe was Sky and Scroll with 57 eliminations.
Oof.
And looking to see 49 for Curve and Veno. And considering the game or the day that they had yesterday to the day that they're having today, I wonder if they're going to end up with more elims than them.
Gotta say, Zeke, what a weird lobby that was too, with like the high ground. Like at one point there was like nobody up there, and all of a sudden, you know, Peterbot and Player kind of going for it. And then when Curve and Veno went for it, there was
Not
nobody up there as
good.
well. Like Peterbot and Player had to fall down and did that huge overdrive grenade again, right where they're all the way up in the sky. And I was looking up and I was like, oh my gosh, look, is that a bird? It's a plane? No, it's the plane that brought Veno over from EU to NA all the way up there, man. That's how high they're getting for some of these height retakes. I mean, it's incredible. Game 7, Game 8, it went the exact same way. They took height at the exact same time. And like I mentioned, man, Game 7, they look like a different duo. Game 8, they repeated it. 4 more games. These guys look like they're going to win this thing.
Oh man, guys, we can't forget, right? Cold and Rapid, look at them up there right now. Of course, not a ton of points ahead, but what strikes me as crazy is Cold and Rapid, this last game, they hit a 10th place with 4 elims. They have only had 1 game outside of the top 10. Only 1 game, and that was that 26-1 that we called a quote-unquote mistake, right? The blunder that kind of cost them all of these additional points. But even in these situations where they're finding themselves in shambles situations, we're still pulling off 10th places, a top 10 with 4 elims. That's scary stuff, Kelly.
Yeah, and that is exactly what Cold and Rapid are doing so well, is that even though they're not, like, even if they don't get their pop-off game, they're still making sure that they at least make it to the very final moment to get those placement points. And then when they do have everything right, that's when they pull off the pop-off game. So I'd love to see another game like that coming out of them.
Cold and Rapid, they keep trying to build some sort of a lead, but teams, they just keep keeping themselves close. They're like, what the heck? Where did Curve and Veno come from? I thought we were fine. Red Acorn and Bolts are doing a little bit worse today. Oh man, these guys got to be sweating, but they're cool, calm, collected. 4 games left to go. Hopefully they can hold on.
Oh man, game number 9. Only 4 left before we conclude the grand finals. Casters, we're going to send it your way to prepare us for game number 9.
I'm glad you guys had a little moment to breathe and relax there. One thing's for certain, Jacob, 2 games can change so much of the dynamic right now. Curve and Veno proving that every team that is due for a pop-off will have it, but to go back-to-back like that, so impressive.
Now, it's definitely going to be tough, but one thing that I've learned from Fortnite, I've heard from Fortnite over the years, high ground, they might win games, but low ground tends to win championships, and I'm not sure. We've seen Cold and Rapid on high ground once throughout this week, and I'm not sure how much that will change, but the next game is ready, so let's jump right into the action.
The Major 1 Finals Game 9 begins here and now. If you're just tuning in, you've missed quite the weekend. The ups, the downs, the emotional roller coaster we have been going through is all coming to an end here soon. Just 4 games ahead of us now, Jacob, as we're getting into the deep end, the deep water of this Fortnite competition. And Curve and Veno just proven to us that, hey, yesterday, they clearly had everything on lock. Things just didn't quite line up for them in the end game. But today, it is starting to click. And for Tyler and Chance, right? This is a team that's had a lot to deal with as well. But Tyler popping off right now, really getting his money's worth. And don't forget, they haven't been perfect either, but they found themselves inside the top 10 off of that monstrous performance.
Big moments here, kind of closing out the day. 4 games left. Might seem like a lot, but it definitely isn't. Threats and Fear probably are feeling it. In that last game, also, they were inside of that top 13 bubble. They went down relatively early and fell all the way down to 15th place because of these off-spawn contested fights. So with Blanks and Mako, you can see they're trying to make a last-ditch effort towards the top of the leaderboard. For Threats and Veers, they're right there. So we talk about mind games. What does that do to a team like Threats and Veer? Do you play aggressive? Do you try to go ahead and disengage, split the drop? I think there's a lot of decisions to be made for Threats and Veer, and there's not a lot of time to make those decisions.
That last game, they only survived for 5
Where
minutes.
is
5
it?
minutes
Oh.
means they fell in 41st place. They were on track to remain in qualification range, of course, for that land spot, the prestigious land spots that are available. And now they slipped down to 15. So that 20-point gap that you talked about, I mean, that was given and then some. Now it's an uphill battle for them to find their way back into the race. Boyo Peterbot on the other side. You know, we're trying to figure out what's going on with this team here. They've had, overall, if you just look at the overall performances, pretty good. However, the best of the best, right? Those that are up at the very top are just outpacing them by a significant margin as far as overall consistency. So will Peterbot and Pollo get their moment to finally win a game is the question.
Yeah, especially, you know, you kind of look at some of these teams at the top of the leaderboard and their overall match history, and you kind of look at it from anybody else, you're like, man, that's a good match history. But for the teams like Peterbot and Pollo, for the teams like this Clicks and Higgs, when you start off the first 3 games for Clicks and Higgs with victory royales, it kind of sets the tone and the pages for the rest of the tournament, but then things don't necessarily go your way. With one of the best POIs, they got 4 games left. I think anything is possible, especially since the last couple games to start the day. They have their head on straight. They're still staying to their plan, going for high ground when they can. It's just unfortunate. I think more and more teams are ready to make the risk with everything on the line today.
For me, I still can't be the only one who's wondering why in the world did they end up at the Dark Dominion against Cold and Rapid, who are clearly playing as a cut above the rest of the competition right now. So we'll keep eyes on this. This is obviously one of the stronger draw spot teams tend to rotate into for Metal. Let's give this little highlight here, some action. Noisy and Neo just holding down the Sanctuary once again, finding nice little lurk play there. Meanwhile, Tyler and Chance survived the Boulevard. Looks like Curve and Veno have not decided to push down south towards this team, and instead they end up disengaging and out towards the southern edge of the map.
This is something we saw Tyler and Chance do in that last game. They landed the south side of Battlewood. Sometimes it can be a little contested, so they immediately go towards the south and try to cut off the loot path of any of these teams. that are on this portion of the map. Going to be plenty of opportunity depending on what your timing is, but it seems like Tyler and Chance barely missed their window. Players going to go ahead and rotate around for free. Aviv and King, though, another team. Aviv, we were talking about solo clutch and big impact points. Aviv was one of those players on the top of the leaderboard, and then you take into a fact like the eval finals right before FNC has started. They were the only team to win 2 different games, so they have the blueprint. Just unfortunately, we really haven't seen the success that we'd hope for from a team like this. Kind of seeing if they can really bounce back in today's tournament. I think there's plenty of time and opportunity. They're at 174 points, though. About 80 points down away from that top 13 window.
Yeah, it looks like every other game they're making somewhat of a semblance towards the end game, but not quite being able to push the boulder past peak of the mountain there, get that momentum going. But Veno and Curve actually find Magma.
No way.
Right here,
Why you feel?
I don't thought he was spotted out, but Magma's got no idea that he's actually approaching this close here.
No
I want to know if he's
fucking
gonna go for
way.
the high ground player or the low ground one. G-Monster's exposed as well.
I think they might just go for a straight chop, but Magma's dropping down low, so he's probably going to wait for the window to open. He go ahead and disengage out. G-Money gets spotted out on the other side. Don't take your pick at this point, because Veno and Curve are ready to go all in. Boxes up one, slides into the box onto Magma. Now
Wow,
we're going to go ahead and take down G-Money. A quick 2 eliminations.
Wow.
Veno and Curve, they're not slowing down.
And I've worked with Veno enough times to know exactly what his thought process there, right? Put the pressure down on the other opponent. The other one's gonna get risky. He plays the switch reverse card, lands on him, boxes him up before he even recognizes he's actually the one that's the target. Veno is just playing different right now. And again, this is no different than what we saw yesterday. They have been overly successful in the early game. And now that they're finding the end game kind of formula, right? The solution to their problems, that's why they've been able to close this gap so fast.
Not sure how many teams can really take them on head-to-head with the way they're playing so far, so you maybe have to catch them on a rotation, maybe get them lobby focused. But Bolts and Acorn talked about their strategy. Vivid broke it down, that long launch pad towards the back. They combine both the Fizz and the Shockwave for easy rotations just like this. We jump on board Creon Dragon, the third party to fight to start the game yesterday. It was Reet and Cooper as well. We talk about threats and fear falling outside of the bubble. Reet and Cooper are surely close to that same situation. Not sure how Cooper went down in that last game, but we saw Reet by himself in some of those later zones, struggling to get out alive. So this is going to be a little bit of a makeup game, a little bit of a redemption to kind of build that confidence back up.
We got tagged back in exchange there a few times, so just giving away some of that damage that they're, of course, hard earning. But Cooper was lost, like we mentioned, really early last round, right? So there is some more work to be desired here. Blake and Preston, though, already at 2 elims, and look at this. It's just trying to sneak up, find another player here, lurking in the box. Cleaning things up here. Visual's Braids finds himself under some serious pressure here. Now, I was going to mention, normally by now, they're already situated in a monstrous surge base. Haven't quite gotten to do that just yet. You can see he is cap metal, though. Meanwhile, back on over Rituals and Aegis here. What's happening now?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they heard the noise from Blake and Preston. Maybe a reboot, not sure, but they see Preston by himself. I'm looking at the minimap. I don't see Blake anywhere in sight. Gotta imagine he's either gone or outside of the lobby. So Preston on the clock inside of the zone. It's only gonna be a 1 tick here, but they are tracing him down. He gets the patch up, which is huge. Back-to-back 50 HP being regenerated. No time to pop the shield though. So he's buying himself a good amount of time. And the longer they stay in the zone, if Aegis and Ritual don't heal up, they could be 1 shot away, but they sneak the shot through in yet again, and the numbers advantage work in their favor. Aegis and Ritual solidify their 2nd elimination here. My only question, Monster, is how much damage they took overall chasing that one down.
Yeah, definitely wasn't the cleanest fight. SU Dozer against Acorn and Bolts right now on the edge of Storm here. Dozer, SU looking to rotate out right now. Little do they know, though. Seems like there might be a duo here watching this little angle. It's actually Ravens and CDZ who have a bit of a choke point here down in the low ground. But Acorn and Bolts hold strong. They want to maintain position here in the bush. CDZ had no idea they were there. And there it is. They get a couple attacks. Off they go.
Good rotation here for Acorn and Bolts, putting them much ahead of the curve. But one thing I noticed kind of looking at that leaderboard, you got Cold and Rapid at first. Venno and Curve in second place. Which you're thinking both big teams, right? But remember the reason why Venno came from EU to play on NA in the first place. It was to play with Cold. They had a bunch of lackluster performances, which caused them to split different ways. At one point, you saw the Peterbot and Poyo split up. Venno was going to play with Peter, but then he went with Curve. Cold was like, I'm going with Rapid. They already qualified for the Reload Elite Series finals, so they already had that chemistry. I think the community saw that one coming from a mile away. So it's interesting to see two teammates who broke up now fighting for first and second place on the leaderboard.
That's right. And Minish has that LAN experience as well, right? So bringing something totally new to this team here. And if they continue to do what they're doing and stay on track to make it to LAN, that's going to pay off for sure. Think about this positioning here from Bucky and Zen underneath the bases of Noisy and Neo.
I like it to not take too much damage or too much focus. Kind of makes it a little bit easier to rotate without shockwaving a high distance away to take damage. But they're not going to get as much opportunity to get surged. The team above is going to get first strike at that. And by the time they can even open up their walls and try to get their own shots to connect, you can imagine that team be long gone or out of that position. That's where Bucky and Zen trying to time it perfectly. They got to watch out for Neo and Noisy up above. They don't want to take any free damage, especially since if they haven't been able to accumulate enough on their own. You see the zone not too far away from Dark Dominion at the current time. Cold and Rapid position up above. And honestly, there's no real reason for Cold and Rapid to stray away from their strategy. You know, you don't fix what isn't broken. If their worst placing is going to be a 26 and kind of an outlier game, and after that it's a 10th place, honestly, it'd be crazy to switch things up for no reason.
Yeah, I'm just starting to think, should we be upset if Venno flies in from EU and then wins an FNCS here in NA? Now we got to start asking these types of questions here. I don't know how to feel about it. It's getting pretty contentious up at the top.
Yes and yes.
It's definitely going to help his case because you know how he feels about the comparison for EU to NA, and he's just right there. Honestly, less than 20 points away at this current time, closing the gap as the game does go on. You see Reet and Cooper on the distance trying to make up for that
he
last
played
game.
with a tier 2 Podo.
See them kind of waiting
If
their time, and this is where a lot
he
of teams,
win
if you
on
look at strategy
NA,
from Clicks and Higgs, and you were asking the question, how do
Did
things go down?
not
You almost
loaded.
imagine a situation like this, coming in, using the wonky wheel, and a lot of these teams, just like, Reet and Cooper, Cold and Rapid, are positioned high up in their surge tower bases, so you're not going to be out of render distance as you would think.
Yeah, they got eyes on the boxes, right? Like, we already kind of called this before. Teams that are positioned up in these bases do tend to wait things out and try to look for opportunity for those that are going to rotate, pass. Again, this is game number 9, 12, 2-day
What the
format here, always
fuck?
keeping us on our toes. As things are starting to heat up, the 50-50 zone's going to pop, and it's coming up this way. And this is kind of risky, right? But, Jacob, we talked about teams that kind of play deep into the storm right here, and then the zone pulls your way, and you just stay here, right? And you kind of tank all of this storm. Now, what you're doing is you're opening yourself up to potential sickness, but also, obviously, it's going to cost you a lot of heals.
Yeah, a lot of their resources. That's kind of the give and take of a game like this. We talk about a similar scenario when somebody's getting struck down by Storm Surge. Do you out-heal it? Do you try to get eliminations? So hopefully with their positioning here, they do pull zone. Reed and Cooper, they're going to go through their splashes, maybe some pizzas to try to maintain their position, not only on high ground, but on the north side of the map where it's going to open up. It's going to be a little bit slower to travel through. Muds and Sphinx, Storm Surge does activate 175 above the damage threshold. You're seeing they're only peeking for small opportunities. They're level with the ground, so they're not going to get as much information from all the teams rotating in.
Confused for a second. It looked like someone literally fell out the sky. I'm like, do we have an in-game event happening right now? What was that? Like, Sphinx and Muzz just kind of hanging out right now. I like the spot that they're in, 150 above. Not too bad. Not exactly safe. However, it can go either way. See Curve, Venno now. They've already found themselves pretty content, right? They find their elimination. They get the big cleanup here, and they haven't quite left. They just took the Surge base and have turned it into their own strategy. Now the zones continue to pull this way. They're going to have to shockwave out here shortly. Here it goes. going at the team, but ooh, someone's waiting for them to make that move. A little bit of damage onto Curve, but Venno goes untouched.
What happened? Why does that
Yeah,
way
those are
not
the
work?
risks versus the reward that I kind of look at in situations where you're shockwaving off of height. You have a good bird's eye view when you're able to kind of be up here, Monster, but once you shockwave down, you kind of leave yourself open to taking the shots, just like you saw there. But they were very, very proactive in the early game. They're able to pad that cushion when it comes to Storm Surge, so they can take minimal damage just like that. I see Clicks and Higgs still rotating in from Wonky Land. A little bit of slower rotation than others. They're taking a lot of the focus, and this is what happens when you fall behind with the rest of the pack.
Yeah,
I was wondering if we were gonna get a little update
I'm
on
sorry,
Clicks and
don't
Higgs
worry
here.
about winning,
Their
worry
performance
about making 2
definitely
lane.
coming up short from what we expected.
Because you're not,
It's hard to live up to that hot start. Look at this though, Sleep 10 wagers here, tries to go up and over. They get caught in the process, also
Okay.
find themselves below the surge, so there's just all types of problems here to deal with. Meanwhile, Venno takes full advantage of that. They get the refresh that they need. They
oh my
might
god.
even build into the zone here with a monstrous metal base if they wanted to. I was gonna say, they obviously have enough mass to do so. Let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
It's Venno who connects there, Jacob.
Just big damage. Not sure what Slepsy was thinking, but I saw him 500 below the damage threshold. He's probably trying to drop on anybody with a surprise attack. Tries to get the one pump, but I did see, the teammate just gotta
no.
go down right behind Paper, who was
Good luck.
looking not even in that direction. Probably after the elimination got cleaned up, the loop kind of made itself known. Paper looks around like, ooh, what is this? Kind of gets rewarded there. Cold and Rapid. See them continuously staying on these mid layers. They don't want to have a target on their back going for high ground, especially since they're already in first place. They don't have to change up anything here. 313 damage above the threshold, just waiting for the next zone to pull, and more than half of the lobby just got a max pull over towards Humble Hills.
We have it. Things are about to start heating up real quick here now.
Okay, come on,
The final moments of game
come on,
number 9.
Fortnite. It's
Endgame
freaking
is
rich.
on. Storm Surge is here.
Fortnite
Clicks and
what
Higgs are
the
150
EU
below right
team
now.
win.
Still plenty of room
Yeah, I know.
of damage to be had here, so they have to play aggressive. Into the box they go. Higgs gets a monster shot, clicks into the box.
Oh.
And Clicks does what he needs to, but no,
Yeah,
it's
no.
Agers and Rituals are here to clean it up.
Oh fuck.
And they take out some of that
Kidney too.
close competition there in
What
Clicks
else?
and Higgs.
Top
And the
13
runway
late
is
lane?
starting to open up now. Meanwhile, Curve and Venno, clear as day. Blue skies for the team over here. They have high ground and max material once again. This just doesn't get better for them.
Yeah, I'm not sure if these were all of their bases or not, but essentially shockwaving from base to base to base in the last couple of zones to make sure they maintain their presence up above. You see them with all that extra loot building outward, not necessarily to hold the tart, but just to get their edge inside of the zone. Peterbot and Poyo filmed the same struggle. For a moment, one below the damage threshold. They quickly prop themselves back up, 89 above. Poyo looking toward the backside of zone, trying to get some easy damage. Peterbot on the hunt for some of his own. Almost bites off more than he could chew in that moment. But either way, Poyo was able to clean up at least one elimination and continue to build up on that Storm Surge. Only 3 players need to go down before it deactivates, but as they get eliminations, so do Cold and Rapid. There goes another one for Cold, adding to his total.
It's crazy, man. The amount of eliminations they managed to find in the end game is so impressive. And they're in the lead, mind you, right? So this is really going to give them that room to run away with it. And you start looking at players like Rapid, you start looking at players like Curve. Having an FNCS championship under your belt is one thing, but having it on NA just hits a little different too. So for some, they're looking to unify the belts. For others, they're trying to put the stamp on their name. And for folks like Curve, talk about really showcasing you're one of the greats now of the new era. But first, you got to do it. Rapid and Cold continue to play the strat. Going for low ground front side here. Now, this time they do have low material count, so they will need a big refresh.
Which honestly doesn't worry me just one bit. Curve finds one though. They're on 8 eliminations already, continuing the pressure on the lobby. Absolute destruction here on NA, and really have to take note. If Venno finds himself in first place when the tournament is over, he will be a new 2-region champion, EU and NA Central, arguably 2 of the hardest regions to win a championship on, but they still got a quarter of the tournament left to play. Tyler, forced by himself, loses chance backside of the zone. He's getting pressured by Jack, NPen, and a few other teams. Everybody forced to rotate in, finds a Fizz, trying to take advantage of that, but he runs into Peterbot and Poyo on the other side of the wall. Luckily for him, it looks like Peterbot and Poyo have their hands full, so they don't even look back, but as we tune back into Cold, he's by himself. No extra heals, no build. This is what the entire lobby needs to have a chance.
And they're only in top 20 right now, like barely holding on here. For Cold to fall, the runway really starts to become available now for everyone else. But look at this, Veno lost in the process. Curve forced to play high ground by himself. Meanwhile, Acorn and Bolts find a 2-set elimination down low. And then we jump right into Poyo, who also has a refresh of their own. And everyone is clawing back into this competition now.
Yeah, with first place gone, we got Curve by himself, we got Aegis Ritual, Acorn and Bolts, even Peterbot and Poyo, that all could be our first place team after this game, and they're ready to make it so. Big Elim up towards the top, Peterbot and Poyo, they send it over towards high, give themselves a huge advantage, and another 4 points for those eliminations, even more with the placement as it comes in, but down below, the counterparts, Aegis and Ritual still running wild. 5 eliminations of their own, they have pizza, they have splashes, they have materials on top, so they don't even necessarily need an elimination.
You line it up, they will knock it down. Bolts and Acorn here, 4 eliminations now on the low ground. Peterbot and Poyo, we already know, have solidified their high ground position. Bolts just continuing to do what he does best. That's a monstrous refresh, and he picks up everything here. Gets the Chug Jug as well. He's just living off the siphon, but no, Acorn gets caught there by Javi and Aminish. Tyler still holding on here as well. Somehow finds his way into top 5. When we last checked in, it was 20th place. And Tyler is just clutching up, showing us how badly he wants it. Bolts on the roll down though. Javi and Aminish here, full duo. Versus, of course, Peterbot Poyo, pressure from the top. It's not looking too good here.
Yeah, Bolts just getting pressure from all angles. Both of the duos sandwich him, eat him alive, but there comes the drop down coming in. Peterbot realizing it's going over recycled builds. They can maintain their presence, but a blessing for them is the same blessing from down below. Javi and Aminish are able to utilize that same scenario, and rightfully so. Look at their material count monster. They were almost out of mats altogether.
Yeah, Peterbot knows what to do here. He's just got to keep that relentless pressure coming down. Hopefully he can pull for the win. But Javi comes up, finds a little cheeky angle from the side there, but he's got no match. Peterbot also punished too. Aminish's got nothing but Poyo's coming down to finish the job. Peterbot's already got the full conclusion there, and now, Jacob, it's just looking like a 2v1.
Yeah, basically, Javi's living on borrowed time here. He might know it as well. No extra material. Zone pulling on over. Yes, he can farm up a little bit, but double Thunder Burst up above. The Mythic AR, they're going to melt through those builds, and that's why you see layer by layer, Peterbot and Poyo dropping down. They just don't want to take any big risk here because they know this one is definitely in the bag. 9 eliminations so far, and if they're able to clean this one up, get that elimination onto Javi, this could be a double-digit elimination victory royale. They catch fire at the right time. Peterbot and Poyo on top.
You know, they were due for a win. That's what we kept saying. We're looking at their performances. We're seeing them make these end games. But the biggest question that was remaining was, when are they going to get that victory out? And you know what? They couldn't have done it in a better time and at a better game, right? When you have Cold and Rapid there, Jacob falling early too. That right there is going to conclude game number 9 now. Peterbot and Poyo Zeke have finally done it.
It's happening! It's happening! Peterbot Poyo! Okay, everything. Nope, Kelly, it's happening. We knew it was gonna happen. We didn't know when. We didn't know why or how, but it's happening right now. 3 games left to go. Game number 9. They finally decide, you know what, Zeke? You know what? We've been quiet. We've been under the radar. We've been consistent, but on the DL. You know what, Zeke? We're going to make a statement. We're going to perfectly overdrive all the way up in the height. We're going to shut that down, take it over. You know what, Zeke? We're going to get ourselves a victory royale. Kelly, they're doing it. It's happening. It's happening.
You know, they say that there's 2 inevitabilities in life, death and in the final games. It is just inevitable. Peterbot and Poyo, we've seen them do it time and time again. The narrative has popped up time and time again. They're washed. It's over. Peterbot's done. And then they wrap up day 1. Always still in the top 10, by the way. But day 2 is where they come to show how they do it time and time again. Peterbot doing this crazy height steal to go onto Curve, who was a solo. Poor guy had no chance when when you have Peter Bob
Wow,
Boyle
who
flying
said
up in the
that?
sky.
Not allowed to say that.
I mean, you know, there's kind of the conversation amongst us saying, yeah, you know, they've been pretty quiet this grand, and they really haven't. I mean, their best placement was a 5th place. We're used to seeing these guys just win games, take high ground convincingly, and it just has not happened. But that being said, they kept themselves in contention, right? Even though they weren't having these pop-up games, even though they weren't having those performances that we're used to seeing out of them, they were still in like 6th place going into that game, right? Just close enough to 1st place where it's like, okay, technically it's possible for them to kind of catch back up. You know, they're just always flying around, always buzzing around. And then it happens. They win the game. It's like we literally brought it to fruition by speaking it into existence. These guys are back. They win the game, and I saw how many points they have. I can't wait to see the leaderboard after we come back.
Oh, Vivid, you stole what I was going to say. 485 points. We knew going into that Golden Rapid had 446. But where did they end? Have they overtaken that #1 spot? Let's find out after this short break. Don't you go anywhere. We'll see you right after this.
Peter Pan start winning. How?